downtown Albuquerque. Beautiful for some,
but a house of horrors for others.
Watch for the next 30 minutes and see how Joy Junction is making a difference in the lives of the homeless.
We have all watched shows from time to time like Lockup, Extended Stay, where it's obvious that the people they're filming are in prison for a long time. They're there for an extended stay. You see the guards, you see the warden, you see people really not happy. And then you see them preparing to get out of prison, and they become really, really happy. It's obvious to us when you see these folks in prison, they're in prison because you see the bars, you hear the clank of the locks, you see the hand reaching out from behind the bars. But what isn't so obvious to people is that many of the people we deal with here at Joy Junction are also in their own prison, many times of an extended stay of a far longer time period than you would see on any TV shows dealing with a real physical prison. We deal with so many people here. We have them for many years who are in a prison of drugs, a prison of alcohol, a prison of mental health issues. They look like they're free. They look like they're normal. They look like just like you and me. And to all intents and purposes, it's very hard for us to see that they are in prison. In fact, on the Facebook status update I did some time ago, we had showed the Lifeline of Hope on mobile feeding unit parked downtown, and behind the Lifeline of Hope was gathered, a whole slew of men, a long line of people, mostly men, but some women and kids, I believe, as well. What I guess saddened me, and also to some extent appalled me, was a Facebook comment from a Facebook friend, I say that loosely, and this individual had said to us, "How come you are feeding all those men? They're able-bodied and they should be out getting a job and they're doing okay." Basically, the implication was we were enabling them to stay just as they are. Well, as I began to read that, the adrenaline began to rise within me. I'm thinking, ma'am, how dare you say that? I didn't say that to her, but this is what I was thinking. How dare you say that? Because while these people looked okay on the outside, this woman had no idea of the possibility of the mental prison these folks are in on the inside. There could have been bipolar illness represented in this line of people. There could have been other mental illness. There could have been abuse issues they were dealing with. Just a whole slew of issues. Maybe drug abuse, maybe alcohol abuse, and maybe at that point in time, these folks are okay. But it's very clear that many of those homeless were in a prison of their own. It wasn't a prison made of physical bars, it's a prison made of mental bars.
Hi, I'm Lisa Woodward. I became homeless in 05. I was raised pretty well off, pretty much a spoiled brat, but with that came a lot of physical abuse and whatnot. I started drinking when I was about 15. I continued and it got larger and larger. By the time I became homeless in 05, I was drinking close to a gallon of vodka a day. My family kicked me out. I had stolen money. I had done everything in the world. I ended up being homeless and living underneath a tractor trailer on 2nd Street. That's when I discovered how cruel people can be to somebody they perceive as drunk or too lazy to get a job. I lived underneath there. I would sneak into a restaurant in the mornings to try to wash up in their bathroom. People would walk by me and tell me why don't you, instead of begging for a meal, why don't you ask them for a job and get back in the kitchen and do something instead of living off of the world and welfare. I had never been on welfare. I wasn't on welfare at that time. I lived underneath there for between 5 and 6 weeks when the tractor shifted on me and I got trapped. I ended up in the hospital, and again, I found out a hard lesson. The hospital, I was well enough to leave. I said, I have no place to go. I had no idea that the hospitals would just kick you out into a cab, and there's nothing they can do. They called Joy Junction. I was sent out to Joy Junction, and I don't ever remember being as angry as I was when I got here. Everybody here tried to help me. They tried to give me the basics, food and whatnot, and I lashed out at everybody. And that's when I found out what love was. The staff at that time took me to the side and tried to find out why I would be so angry as to hurt somebody who had never done anything to me, and allowed me onto their program so that I could learn the love of the Lord. I've worked for Joy Junction and lived at Joy Junction for close to 8 years now. The way the homeless people that are treated outside of the gates of Joy Junction or any other missions is devastating.
I just want to tell you folks, my name's Claude Ewing. I've been here a long, long time, 15 years. I've only been homeless 2 months again. But I want to tell you that the homeless, they're being acted like cattle instead of human beings. And there has to be something done with that so then they can find a little bit more respect.
So how are the homeless treated? We sent our Kathy Sotelo to Panhandle and find out.
So the worst part of the hour, I would have to say, was when I was asked to come back to someone's apartment the tone in his voice felt like it was a derogatory comment, so I felt like, I don't know, violated somehow. And unfortunately, probably some women would take advantage of something like that just for the, basic need of cash for whatever reason. And I also noticed that I think that there wasn't enough time at the light. I noticed a few women looking through their purses, but the light turned green and they took off. Okay, the most touching part was when a small blue car pulled up right next to me, and there was a kid in the back, probably 5 years old, little boy. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and as quickly as he noticed I was looking at him, he turned away. And I could see him out of my peripheral. He'd look at me and look at me up and down. I think the little boy didn't want to make eye contact. Maybe he felt uncomfortable. It seemed like he could read the sign. It seemed like he understood what the sign said. So I'm guessing that he probably felt uncomfortable, maybe felt sorry.
Do you think this is something that you could do on a daily basis?
Absolutely not.
Very dangerous.
Dangerous, kind of humiliating, dismissing. Going back to the whole eye contact thing, I noticed that people would glance at me and then quickly look away. Some wouldn't even look at me.
So what can we do to help those on the street? We headed downtown to find out.
And are you familiar with services that are available to homeless individuals here?
No.
Are you from here?
No, I'm not. No, I'm a visitor. So, but I will say though, as a visitor, I'm from Atlanta. As a visitor, the appearance of homelessness in this community, in this area, seems extremely high. It really does.
One downtown restaurant owner agreed with that sentiment and said that the number of homeless in the area are driving customers away from his business.
We've been here for about 4.5 months. Everybody's been really nice in this area, but we have one main element that we're having problems with. It's the homeless. We've had 2 major groups yesterday leave because they've seen a whole bunch of people sitting outside in our chairs. We own the chairs and the tables. We try to clear them out. The police do a pretty good job of coming around and clearing them out for us. We appreciate that. But the element is large. There is a lot of homeless at different times, and it deters people from coming to us. We're a small business, and we like to stay in business.
And I think that's because a lot of the homeless services that are available to the homeless are located in the downtown area. So naturally they congregate to this area, so you're going to see them more than you would normally.
I think as a society there's things that we could do to least provide opportunities to get them to a better place, or at least have opportunities to get to a better place.
Coming from another country, this man had a different perspective and solution to homelessness.
As a city, do you know, it is a problem that it is kind of complex because it includes a lot of people, like high people on the level of like companies, people on some other levels that they need to be aware about this.
And why do you think it is that they don't have jobs?
It is economy, basically. Like I said, if we don't produce nothing and if our country doesn't do nothing else about that, for that reason we have this kind of problem.
One answer for effectively helping the city's homeless is found with Joy Junction's faith-based Christ in Power Life Recovery Program. It's based on the Tyndale House Life Recovery Bible.
It's one of the only life recovery 12-step programs in this part of the country that's all Bible-centered. Every teaching that Joel is doing is backed up by Scripture. And so what it's doing is it's helping our classmates there grow spiritually. It's helping them stabilize emotionally and stabilize mentally, stabilize physically, and even in the teaching, he'll be teaching about finance, because it takes all of those things for us to land on our feet as Christian people.
I have a good mind and a good spirit. I have a good heart, and all I needed was somebody to care and put a hand out to me. I was willing to meet him halfway, but I needed to know that somebody cared that I even existed.
Kids are kids, wherever they are, and their emotional and physical well-being is very important to us at Joy Junction. We try to provide a stable, secure, and cheerful environment to help them get successfully through this crisis in their parents' life. Not taking government money, it requires a lot of creative community involvement to keep Joy Junction's doors open. One community member recently spent his birthday helping Joy Junction, and what a celebration it was.
I'm at the grill today on Menard and Washington for the 49th birthday food bash of local actor Manny Barker. Manny's just like a cool guy. You know, most of us, when we reach another year of age of living, we want to have gifts. Either that or we forget it totally. But Manny wanted his birthday gifts to be given to us to give to our homeless friends at Joy Junction.
This year for my 49th birthday, I decided I didn't want a whole bunch of presents for me or a big party. I wanted to hold a party and collect food for Joy Junction, who is always in need, and I support Joy Junction completely.
Hi, I'm Erica, the Community Liaison for Joy Junction. We're real excited to be here today to celebrate Manny's birthday, get out in the community, have a canned food drive. As many of you know, people are hungry, not just at the time of the holidays in November and December, so we're out here trying to stock our shelves so we can keep feeding the community, and we thank each and every one of you for helping us do that.
The Grill helped make this event possible.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who's came out and did this wonderful drive that we had here. I'm a very big supporter of Jeremy Reynolds and Joy Junction.
And here's another creative way of helping Joy Junction, by turning your old car into edible parts.
My name is Macy from Macy's Towing, and we're proud to be working with Joy Junction on their auto donation program. What we do is we collect the cars that are donated from the general public and businesses here in Albuquerque and the surrounding areas. We bring them here. We go through the vehicles to see if they're salvageable, if they're worthy of repair, if we can repair them, to get the top dollar for them for Joy Junction. And we sell them at auction, some privately. We try to get the most we can for them to benefit Joy Junction. Even an old junk car, which you can see we have quite a few of them, even those junk cars, they still bring, after all the expenses are paid, a few $100s for Joy Junction. And that means a lot.
So who are you helping by donating to Joy Junction?
I found so many people who have misconceptions about the homeless. I'll give you some. Oh, they want to be homeless. They're lazy. or if they go out begging and panhandling on the streets, they can make so much money. Probably some of those homeless people, bums, make more money than my husband and I do, or my wife and I do. Why don't they just go get a job? Said in a sort of semi-vicious tone like that. Well, I have an answer for all of that. Firstly, nobody wants, quotes unquote, to be homeless. Even if it appears on the surface they want to be homeless, we don't stop there at Joy Junction. We go back beyond and look. Somebody comes to us and they can't or don't want to appear to get a job. We won't just say, well, they're lazy. What we will do with our chaplain, our case manager, prayer, and forging of a relationship with these folks, we will try and find out what circumstances, what mitigating circumstance, what terrible occurrence happened in this man or woman's life that caused them to want to retreat from being part of normal mainstream community life.
My name's Harold Enzer. But for the grace of God, 14 years ago, I could have been living here. I could still be living here. But I was guided to Joy Junction, a fantastic homeless shelter. After staying at Joy Junction for 30 days, they asked if I'd like to join their program. At the time, it was called the Popeye program. I jumped at the chance. I had nowhere to go. I had no history. I had no future. I worked on their program for a little over a year, and they asked if I'd like to become a staff member and help out there. I couldn't think of anything better in my life. I couldn't think of doing anything else. It was just a blessing. And I've worked there since then. I'm just so happy to be part of Joy Junction, part of the crew there, that we give an opportunity to take people from this to a safe, warm in the winter, cool in the summer, a place where they can get 3 meals a day, clean up in a shower, get clothes if they need it. I've seen so many fantastic, wonderful stories, progress being made, and it's a constant daily struggle for many, but they overcome their addictions, their downsides, whatever their past problems, and through the love of Jesus Christ, through the love of the people at Joy Junction, they find a way to get on with their lives, get out of the situation they found themselves in, and move on to bigger and better things.
My life now is amazing. I get up every morning, I thank God for Joy Junction. I thank God for the vision that Dr. Reynolds had those so many years ago. I'm proud of the job that I do. I love helping the people that come through the gates that I see that have been in the same place. I love being able to help them with their anger, with their pain, so that they can have the life that I have now in the next couple of years. It's obtainable, but they need that handout. They need that somebody just to say, you're loved. The Lord loves you, we love you, we can, you can do this.
Lisa's job, reaching out to offer a hand up, is an integral part of the philosophy of Joy Junction.
Right now we're going to start out, we're going to go over to HCH. It's kind of a hot spot for the homeless, so they've got a back patio back there. And they'll go over there and stay until the police come and run them off. The city's put out a deal where they're not supposed to be back there at all, but kind of one of the safest areas, especially if you're a female or if you've got kids, to go, because it's well lit and you can get out from underneath, out of the elements if it's raining or snowing. It's got a slight cover on it. So we'll go over there and see what we got going.
We are at one of many local agencies regularly visited by the Joy Junction outreach team.
Sack lunch and water? There you go.
Nighttime outreach continues as the team scours the narrow, dark, and potentially dangerous alleys of downtown Albuquerque. People are homeless for many different reasons. Joy Junction tries to help as many of them as possible without passing judgment.
We've just arrived at the spot in an alley in downtown Albuquerque As you can see, there's a great likelihood that this is a current count because the mattress is tied up. It's fairly early in the evening, not really late. So we have left some food here, we've left some water, we've left a sack lunch, and this is all part of the outreach that we do from Joy Junction. And all part of the outreach that your prayerful and financial support makes a reality for us. Again, what I want you to know, in an hour or so, all of our staff, myself included, will be headed back to our homes to warm beds, and we'll have a warm, safe night's sleep. But can you imagine if maybe in an hour or two you had to come back here and this is what you were faced with? If you had to come back to this, of course, and this beats nothing. Obviously, we have water, we have a sack lunch, and that's great. But obviously, it doesn't beat having a home. So can you imagine if your evening later on tonight and you came back here and you had to untie this, and this was what you were faced with for the entire evening? That would be easy to say because around the area, some empty alcohol bottles. And it's easy to write people off that live in this way. Maybe some of you would even say, well, they choose to live in this fashion. Well, to a certain extent, that's right. But what goes behind that choice? What is it that makes somebody live here? What is it that makes somebody descend into a life of alcoholism, possibly drug abuse, and live right here? It's not enough for us anymore to rid our conscience of the fact we have to help these folks and to say they've made a choice. Saying people make a choice to live like this is something that gets us off the hook easily. It's easy to pass by dismissively on the other side and to say, well, they choose to live in this fashion. What I want you to think about is you see me on camera tonight. What was it that made a man or woman choose to live here? What was it that made them want to have this mattress as home? What terrible circumstances had they been through in their life that made them have to live here? We need to help. As evangelical, Bible-believing Christians who say we love Jesus Christ, we need to help. This empty, deserted mattress tied with rope, it really epitomizes the plight of some of the homeless whom we help. Now at Joy Junction, we do a really great job with your help in helping homeless people get back on their feet again. We have a recovery program and many people make use of that. But we also don't want to forget the homeless for whom recovery at this stage in their life is not an option. They are faced with this. Will you help us continue to build relationships with people that make this their home? Help them trust us enough for them to get into Joy Junction and help them start the road to recovery that leads to them getting back on their feet again.
When our guests arrive at Joy Junction, they're at a dead end. Your prayerful and financial support helps us move them, with God's help, onto a life of spiritual and material prosperity.
Thank you for all you do. Please go online to joyjunction.org and help us help more of these struggling souls who, without the Lord's help and you and I, could face the risk of dying.